Two-thirds of young Aussies have given up on buying a house. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. Grab your stein of coffee because, well, I want to discuss an article that's come out from the Sydney Morning Herald about how many young Australians have given up on the dream of owning a house. Now, I think this is somewhat appropriate on Anzac Day to discuss as we think back and remember just the tragic, horrific nature of war and how we don't seem to have learned from the past. How many young Australians do you think would be willing to defend a country when they don't really own a part of it or have a chance of building a future or a life? Just something to consider. I think we'd have a lot more people dodging the draft now than ever before. So, squeezed out of the Australian dream, two-thirds of young people are giving up on home ownership. Young Australians and middle-income earners have given up on ever buying their own homes amid mounting evidence the nation's dysfunctional housing system is destabilising the entire economy. Well, it looks like the Sydney Morning Herald is a bit late to the party, but yeah, I mean, we're well aware, regulars of the channel are well aware of the significant government intervention in the housing market. If all the crazy lefties and commies are marching and bleeding on about, the free market and capitalism destroying all of their opportunities to make their basket weaving and poetry vegan restaurants, it's not what we have in Australia. So, an exclusive Resolve Political Monitor poll showed two-thirds of the 1,609 people questioned agreed that young Australians will never be able to buy a home. That's not really saying that they've given up on it, is it? That's saying two-thirds of the people agree with the statement that they'll never be able to buy a home. That doesn't necessarily mean they won't be able to buy a home. It's just the sentiment, shall we say. Among those who do not already own a home, 63% of low-income earners and 54% of those on middle income believe they will forever be shut out of the property market that is among the most expensive in the world. Well, yeah, that's how Australia is changing now. The poor and low income are not able to buy housing, and middle income earners, professionals, are not able to buy housing anymore. The poll was taken as part of a series. This masthead begins on Monday by posing the question, has Australia's love affair with housing so distorted the economy that it is the heart of the problems plaguing our cities, our governments, and our way of life? Well, I wouldn't say it's distorted our economy. I would say it is our economy. A large part of it is. How many people do you know at a barbecue invest in housing, talk about invest in housing? How many articles do we see? It's regular in particularly news.com and other media outlets that have features about, such and such built a property portfolio, just working at Macca's and living at home and buying right before a jump. It's part of our culture. Experts believe the nation's living standard and productivity performance are being harmed by the way the property sector commands a growing proportion of consumers' income and distorts the way businesses and employees make key economic choices. Well, this is, hang on, let's see if I have this chart here. It's been a while since I've brought it up. To do with our economic complexity, everyone. How it's been, let me bring it up. Observatory of Economic Complexity. It's been going down, okay? Our economic complexity has been decreasing. And I think a lot of people are quite surprised when they first realize how backwards we are in regards to economic complexity. Let's have a look at Australia. This is a great website for just economic information. Okay, so here is our economic complexity. We're at negative 0.41. We're ranked 82nd in the world. And you can see here, most specialized products is wool, iron ore, sheep hides, and other minerals, and then coal and nickel powder, and then sheep and goat meat. Okay, we're not an advanced economy. We're not adding value to all of our goods. We're a colony on the edge of the world, shipping stuff overseas. There are other countries that have a much higher economic complexity. New Zealand even has a higher economic complexity than us. So rather than offering them citizenship, we should just bring them into the Federation to up our average. Why not? So, yeah, our economic complexity has been going down over time, everyone. Okay, let's go. What else can we see here? Economic complexity by relatedness. What's this? The top export opportunity for Australia, according to the Relatedness Index, was soybeans, crude petroleum, chromium ore, matter, and lignite. So there you go. And this is the most complex products by PCI. The product complexity index are nickel bars, traffic signals, and optoelectrical instrument parts, and wheat gluten, and then therapeutic appliances. So there you go. That's the complexity of Australia's economy. So when people are telling you that we can become a sustainable powerhouse or a renewable energy powerhouse, we don't have the economic complexity to manufacture and compete in that sector. That's not, I don't know where that's coming from. Anyone who says that hasn't really looked into the reality of it. They're dreaming, they're hoping. They think because we have sunshine, that's all you need. So, and yeah, I would argue the reason why our economic complexity is going down and people are making, business and economic decisions. I mean, why would you build a business with all the stress and bullshit that you have to deal with, all the employees that you have to deal with, all the constantly changing laws and regulations? You've got to pay your BAS all the time, again and again. Remember when Gillard changed payments for taxes for businesses from quarterly to monthly? Wasn't that fun? It's really good when you got like 120-day terms on your invoices. Oh, that's awesome. When you just put money in a house. Just put it in a house, guys. How many of you, honestly, are running a business? Because I know a lot of you aren't. A lot of you are in the construction game. And all the bullshit you have to deal with. And then you look at the property value increase of your house or your investment property and think, why the hell am I doing this when I can make that much there with less stress? So, since 2005, the mortgages held by the nation's 4 biggest banks have climbed from $364 billion, or 25% of GDP, to almost $1.6 trillion, or 70% of GDP. And here's, do you own ability to buy a home? So do you believe that you'll ever be able to buy your own home? Yes, no, do not want to buy, not sure. So no for 18 to 34-year-olds is 35%. 35 to 54, which is yes, I'm in here. I'm in this group. I'm not that old. Yes. You've been through, I bet a lot of you can relate to this, filling out a survey and the first time you're in another circle up higher. Maybe that's just something I've got to deal with. So 40%. 72% of 55-year-olds plus. Yeah, well, I mean, when you get this point, you're too late, honestly. Low income, 63%. Middle income, 54%. And high income, 26%. But here's the thing you've got to realize. People travel back and forth through these levels of income at different points in their life. You'll got people who are at low income that educate themselves, get new skills, and move up the ladder. And then all of a sudden have this money coming in, and then their opinions will change. You've got people at a higher income that realize, you know what? I prefer quality of life. I'm going to cut back my hours. I'm going to do a different job. I'm going to take a pay cut and move down an income bracket. Hey, they tax so much out of me anyway, it's not worth it. So, you're not stuck in any of these things. Sure, it's the challenge is all on you to move from one bracket to another. And that may be easier or not depending on your individual circumstances. But there still is that opportunity, and there's more opportunity in some countries than others. So, and some locations than others. In Sydney and Melbourne over the same period, the median house price has climbed 3.5 times the inflation rate and 2.5 times the increase in average weekly earnings. So serious are the problems that there are fears Australia could become a Jane Austen world, where will be determined by parents' housing portfolios, and people are forced into choosing between buying a home and having children. People are already making that choice. And that's really dangerous. Because if our natural population growth doesn't increase, doesn't meet the numbers that we need to feed the gargantuan monster that is the tax and government spending, they're just going to bring more people in. And they're going to do it without any political debate. We've seen that now. How long has it been happening? If you even criticize in public the immigration numbers here in Australia, if you make an argument going, look at our housing affordability, that's having an impact on that. Look at wage growth, it's having an impact of that. Maybe we should slow it down a bit. Maybe reduce the number. Maybe tie the rate of migration to Australia to some key economic indicators, so we're not unnecessarily overheating other parts of the economy. Anything like that, and you'll be criticized. You'll be booed and hissed. So, it's not going to change. Okay? Long-time housing policy critic, independent economist Saul Eslake, believes policy missteps over the past 3 decades have contributed to a situation that is undermining the living standards of future generations. Yeah, they're going backwards. They're not just in Australia, and a lot of countries around the world. You're not going to have the same quality of life that your parents had. But there's other opportunities. I don't know. What would I rather? Be born even earlier and have those opportunities, or live in a world now where I've got access to knowledge all over the world instantly? I know which is going to improve my health. So, I don't understand why younger people today aren't out on the streets. Well, they are on the streets. They are on the streets. They're protesting climate change. Okay? They're lobbying for interventions in the market, which is going to make housing even more expensive for them. Okay? They're not well versed in the issues that they're arguing for, and they don't appreciate the impact of what the advocacy is actually going to have. That's what they're doing. They are in the streets, protesting against their parents and grandparents for what they've done to the cost of housing in this country, he said. The Resolve poll found it's not just house prices. 42% of renters said their rent had gone up this year with an average increase of $77 a week. Another 20% said their rent had lifted in 2022. Yes, that's just supply and demand, unfortunately. Blame the Nimbin crowd. Resolve director Jim Reed said high house prices and rents mean younger people were being squeezed by not buying and stretched if they did manage to purchase a home. They're buggered if they do and they're buggered if they don't, he said. My researchers in this area tell me that many young people have simply given up on the dream of owning a home, at least in their early careers. And some are even telling me that they've given up on having a family because they can't afford to look after themselves, let alone more mouths. That's kind of bullshit, okay? That's a bullshit excuse. Kids don't cost that much, coming from a father of 6. Okay, come on. It depends on how you spoil them. But seriously. The poll found wide support for a range of ways to increase housing affordability. But that support varies depending on how it affects survey participants' local communities. There you go. This is why, when we hear about housing affordability, I would argue that there's no political will for change, and it's all just bullshit talk. Okay? It's all just utter bullshit. People, they want to keep their suburbs the way they are. They want to live like previous generations did. It's all just complete bullshit. We're not going to get housing affordability in this country. 72% of people support encouraging more homes to be built in new suburbs outside city centres. Support fell to 51% to relax planning rules to allow more homes outside a person's local area. This dropped to 41% if the laws eased to allow more homes in a person's own suburb. Yeah, there you go. They're not in my backyard crowd, the property owners. There you go. Any of us surprised, guys? Labor went to the 29 election with plans to restrict negative gearing concessions. The Resolve poll showed 49% support for capping the number of investment properties a person can own, while 54% backed axing negative gearing for any properties bought after a certain date. So that's the thing. The future generation, or the previous generations, will still have the benefit of the negative gearing, but the young ones won't. So there you go. I think it should be tied to a property, a specific property, with every purchase over a period of time. Maybe you get a greater, it ramps up the longer you hold it. Productivity Commission Chair Michael Brennan said the affordability of housing was hurting the overall economy. The ability to house people close to job opportunities and for firms to locate close to skilled labor is the equivalent of mining or manufacturing firms locating close to raw materials or port infrastructure. The decree difference between the location of skilled workers is based on individual choices and shaped by policy, he said. Housing is also affecting how economic policy in the country is set. The recent review of the Reserve Bank found one of the reasons it did not cut interest rates in the period between 2016 and 19 was due to concerns cuts would only increase the level of debt carried by Australians. The decision resulted in more Australians out of work. Higher interest rates likely contributed to below target inflation and higher unemployment than otherwise, the review found. ANU demographer Liz Allen said the increased insecurity of housing was a factor in the delay of young Australians partnering with others, which then affected decisions on when to start a family. Yeah, this is the thing. People are still having families. People are still pairing off and having families. But the problem is people aren't pairing off. So you get a lot of people that aren't partnering up and bonding and having a family. So yeah, Jordan Peterson did a good video about it recently. If you have increasing housing costs, then home ownership becomes less affordable. And that's likely to have an impact on relationship development and the decision on parenting and number of children, she said. The Grattan Institute's Brendan Coates, and let's just remember the Grattan Institute with their strong push for lockdowns, said young Australians faced a plight not all that different to the world portrayed by Jane Austen's books such as Pride and Prejudice. The biggest issue is one of equality. We're moving back to some sort of Jane Austen world where wealth is less about your work and innovation and more about how much land you have or inherited, he said. Well, that's what you get when you have a increasingly, I'd say, a Benthamism or Benthamite society, a shared burden society. This is where it's going to gravitate to. It's moving back to the world of inherited wealth that comes from land or a house, to the sort of world we had in the 19th century. So we're going back to good old base values, hey? There you go. What do you reckon, guys? So that's it, guys. Well, let's have a bit of a talk. Well, no, before we have a bit of a talk, I've put a poll up on my channel asking the viewers, like when I started recording this, there's only 70 results, but we'll jump over here. We'll check it out. So, have you given up on buying a house? Of the 79 of you that responded in the last 20 minutes I've been recording this, 44% said yes, and 56% have said no. Now, the demographics of my channel are majority 40 and above. Herbert will buy more. Of course he will, mate. Good work. It's going to crash when the boomers are gone. Smoochie is putting all that hope in the boomers being gone. They're just going to bring in people to replace the boomers, Smoochie. Okay? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then you have all the people inheriting the properties will then evolve into boomers. Okay? That's what'll happen. You can keep hoping, but I wouldn't be waiting for it. So guys, 86% are saying now, or 86 votes, 44 no, yes, and 56 no. So a big chunk of people, half have given up on buying a house. So let's have a bit of a talk about this. Wait, hang on. I've got to do my sting. That's it in the lingo. That's called a sting when you transition from one to the other. Oh boy. Anyway, guys, I mean, it's kind of sad. You've got people giving up on getting into the housing market. I wonder if this will change as they move from lower income earners to middle and higher income earners. I honestly think a lot of people need to adjust their expectations. But my one concern I have is you can't really buy a house these days like you could back in the 70s. And everything has got, an ensuite is standard. A walk-in robe is standard. A garage is standard. 3 bedrooms is probably standard. Where back in the day, you get a little 3-bedder with a bath, a separate toilet, and no ensuite, no walk-in robes, no garage, just built on there as a starter house. They're not a thing anymore. So we'll have to see what happens. I can't see housing affordability being addressed anytime soon with regards to political will here in Australia. You saw what happened the last time Labor tried to address negative gearing. They lost the election. So we'll have to see how any of their interventions and changes, none of which seems to be targeting houses, make any difference. My concern is it's just going to get more and more expensive as demand increases due to increasing population, and the fact that our ability to meet that demand has been damaged because we've lost a lot of the supply capacity due to the construction apocalypse brought about by significant government stimulus of the housing sector and builders just going under. What do you reckon? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one in the comments down below. Check out Heiser BIM and Heiser Does. And if you're a fan and want to support us, you can on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links via Pocket Squares or call us if you need an architect. Take care, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode of Heiser Says. Bye for now.